The thoughts that are percolating in my mind today seem to be around control as opposed to letting go, surrendering, accepting. So it's like control as opposed to acceptance. They're fundamentally different things. It's like they're almost, from where I stand, oppositional. Control feels like grasping. Control feels like you have all of these different parts that you believe you can account for, and if you take all of those things into account, then you should be able to achieve whatever it is that you're trying to control. So it's predominant in our society because, as per the patriarchal mindset, it draws on that masculine energy, yang energy of logic and reason, and if X then Y. And it's predominant everywhere, even in the quote-unquote spiritual realm, where we've got particular breathing techniques, 40-day meditations, 120-day meditation, 1,000-day meditations, and this strict adherence to the dogmatic rules of that particular lineage. And if you don't do it that way, then you're doing it wrong, and then you're not going to get the result that you're looking for. So if you don't exert your will over fill in the blank, then you don't get whatever result you're looking for. So on the other side of the spectrum, on the other end of the spectrum, and it is cyclical, we have surrendering. We have acceptance and letting go happening simultaneously. And in that moment of surrendering and letting go, there's an opportunity to invite in something unknown. So instead of trying to put X plus Y equals Z to get the result of Z, in the more yin and the more feminine and the more flowy aspect of spirituality, we come to discover that which we don't yet know. In the process of surrendering to the wave that's moving through us in the moment, surrendering to the information that's moving through us in the moment, accepting, so creating enough space inside of our own being to accept the flow of information and to let go of the illusion of outcome, or rather control. There will be an outcome, more freedom, more space, more flow. And in that space, you create, when you create that space, movement of the information happens, and then there's flow, and then you get to discover something new. You get to discover where you're going, not based on where you've been, not based on the plans and what's knowable and controllable, but instead on where the truth of your experience in the moment leads you to. I just have this thought as I say all that, and how real and true this way of living is for me. So, yes, there are some things that I like to plan about, like, my upcoming trip in the midst of whatever it is that's going on in the world right now and all the restrictions and blah, blah, yada, yada. So, yeah, some planning. But I do not know that there's that kind of room for planning in spirituality. So a lot of people who practice yoga or do their meditations or whatever, they have very specific rules about how to do the thing. So you hold your hands in a particular way, particular mudra, you keep your eyes in a particular spot, you do your breathing in a particular way. And there's a particular intention or outcome that you receive by doing those things, quote unquote, correctly. It feels in this moment that that too is a manifestation of the patriarchal mindset. Because it is through that paradigm that we continue to strive for control. It is in that quote unquote masculine energy that demands control, as opposed to the feminine, if you will, that demands surrender. So it's like if birthing were a metaphor for the matriarchal mindset, the matriarchal component of the totality of what we are, the interconnectedness of what we are. It's not to leave out the masculine, it's to integrate it into the wholeness that we are. So when I speak about, like, there is room for control in our lives, like I mentioned before. And when it comes to spiritual rebirth, awakening, spiritual awakening, spiritual reclamation of self, it cannot, it will not be done in the command and control paradigm. You might get moments of clarity, you might get catharsis, you might get actual experiences of your own divinity. I know when I was practicing Kundalini Yoga, I had those moments frequently. I just didn't know how they fit into anything else in my life. So it was like my own private moment instead of not only a moment, but a deep, inner, rooted knowing. In order to get to this way of living, so living matriarchal consciousness, I have learned how to master the art of surrendering and letting go and accepting, and surrendering and letting go and accepting, surrendering and letting go and accepting over and over and over forever. So it's not like I did it and I got to the thing, to the place, and now I am enlightened. It's not that. What it is a deep inner knowing of what I am, which then directs and shapes who I choose to become in each and every moment, with each and every challenge, trigger, opportunity, situation, whatever it happens that presents my way is an invitation for evolution. And in order for me to see it that way, in order to see it as an opportunity for evolution, I must be willing to surrender to the moment. I must be willing to breathe, exhale the chaos, and create enough space with that exhale for a new inhale to drop in and pause. And then exhale and pause, and inhale and pause, and exhale and pause infinitely, right? Like that is the process of living, is a process of breathing. So to take the process of breathing as metaphor, when something happens and it quote unquote triggers me, or it creates some version of chaos inside of me, that's a moment of so it's like you take in your breath and you hold it on the exhale, because you don't want to let go, and then to inhale the new breath in. So you just pause over there and hope that nobody bursts your balloon, right? We do that a lot as a species in this culture, and pretty much most cultures for the last maybe 10,000 years, maybe more, I don't know. At least since the agricultural revolution. Anyway, that's for another day, and there will be a day for that. So if I'm holding my breath in, not letting go, at some point I'm going to freaking burst. It is not physically possible to hang on to all of that. So as a metaphor, it is not energetically possible for me to hang on to all of that. I have to let go. I have to exhale. I have to surrender to that exhale. And I have to give it a moment, a pause, and then inhale a new wave of information. And in that circular way of living, I may not even know what I desire for my outcome to be. All I might know is that in this moment, I feel a sense of, it could be panic, it could be stress, it could be paranoia, it could be fear, it could be anger, it could be rage, it could be outrage, it could be absolutely anything. And that anything that's presenting is an opportunity for allowing the exhale to happen. So instead of hanging on the inhale and pause, try to figure it out while you're under stress. It's like, exhale and pause and wait for the inhale to find you. Wait for breath to find you. And if we allowed the process to be intuitive, if we allowed the circular process of breathing to be intuitive rather than, you know, inhale for 4 and exhale for 4 kind of thing, which has its place because it teaches us how to learn to be more intuitive. So in that, when the breath becomes intuitive like that, there is no need for an external guidance to tell you how to breathe through the quote unquote trigger or the experience or whatever it is that's happening for you. It's like you notice you're holding your breath. You notice you are feeling triggered. And all you have to do is make a choice to exhale. Pause. Notice how your body feels, and then inhale to the bottom of your feet, to the base of your spine, wherever it is that feels deeply rooted for you. And you can be very imaginative with this one, right? Like, we have beautiful, immense imaginations that let us know what works for us. But the truth of it is that a lot of us are too afraid, are too uncomfortable, are too uncertain about what we're going to find. And so instead of making the choice in the moment where something's presenting to actually breathe, we have been taught to lock it down. So to hold our breath and to go on about our day pretending like nothing's happening inside of ourselves, even though we're about to fucking burst. And because we're not taught how to breathe, because we're not taught how to listen to ourselves, to our bodies, to the messages that are moving through as information, because we're taught to label those things as good, bad, right, or wrong, what ends up happening is we want to put them in a box. Predetermined box that we can understand and that we can do something about. This is why so many people love, need, desperately desire to put a label on their experience. So I remember when the committee of the experts, way back when, and I've had a few labels put on me, but I remember this one specifically. Borderline personality disorder. It made sense of everything. It made sense of why I was so angry. It made sense of, the feminine stuff. It made sense of like everything. Or so I thought, because in fact it made sense of nothing, because it basically labeled me a uncontrollable. Maybe they were right. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, so when I got that diagnosis, or when I got the diagnosis of bipolar, because I was also bipolar apparently, it made sense. And I thought, great, I have a thing I can check off now, and now that I know what it is, I can fix it. So the solution in the world out there, the predominant world out there, is medicine. Who would have thought? Oh my goodness. So they put me on a variety of cocktails to test things out. And as I'm testing things out, I'm also a prolific researcher. So I'm going to research what it is that I'm putting into my body. And as I'm researching all this, I'm looking at known contradictions between these drugs. So if you're taking an antidepressant, you're not supposed to take lithium, and yet I was put on both of those. And so on and so forth. But that's like just one little example. Don't worry, I'm not on any of those things now. Not even self-medicating. What? So The illusion back then for me was that if I know this thing, what it is, then I can control it. And I wasn't alone. I'm not alone. I know a lot of people who are having these experiences in their bodies and they don't know what to do with it. So they're desperate to figure it out. They're desperate to have someone else tell them, here's what it is that's going on with you. Here's how it is that we think that you should fix it. And don't worry, we'll get you fixed up. And that usually happens after many, many, many years of continuous testing. So diagnosis is not usually on the first go. And people become desperate. People become, they feel defeated. They feel like there's something extra wrong with them, that they're unfigureoutable. And it's incredibly diminishing to our potential. It's incredibly diminishing to who we're capable of becoming, and it's incredibly diminishing to our essence that knows whatever's presenting is merely information for us to pay attention to, for the totality of us to pay attention to. Not a Fitbit to tell us, not nanobot you swallow that tells you, not your gut microbiome that tells you, not these bizarre, disconnected, external tests and influences to tell us how we feel and who we are and who we should be. We know. We are born with a capacity, the ability, the willingness to know. Unfortunately, we're born into a world of disconnect and discontent. Is that a word? Contempt for everything spiritual, everything sacred, everything immanent, everything organic, everything alive. So we turn to machines for answers. We turn to technocrats for solutions, to experts. And the more invasive, the more intense, the more bizarre, the more technologically advanced the solution, the more comfortable we are in accepting it because, look, it's the new technology. They must know what they're doing. And the truth of it is, my truth of it is, does not have to be yours. They rarely know what they're doing. The allopathic, modern man's medicine is excellent in an emergency situation. Say you break your arm. I'd want to go to the doctor. I'd want to go to the emergency room. Say my baby's not coming out like mine didn't. I'd want to be in the emergency room. However, would I want to be in the hands of an allopathic doctor when I have quote unquote mental issues or emotional issues or spiritual disconnect? Fuck no. Fuck no. Because what they will do is they will take that and they will turn it into a pathology that they made up and called it something, right? Like being gay was a pathology in the DSM up until fill in the blank, I don't know when. So it's like, I choose to trust myself. I choose to trust my essence. I choose to trust the signal that is me to lead the way. Not the conditioning, not the stories, not the shoulds, not the experts, not the technocrats, not the politicians, especially not the politicians. None of these people are me, and none of these people can possibly know better than me what's good for me. When I am connected to myself, to my essence, to my core, when I am connected, when spirit and matter meet and become one, which is what we in this physical body are, is quantum and matter in one. Like we are one. I don't know how else to tell it. I don't know. So in that, we are whole. And I, for one, choose mindfully to let go of the illusion of external control, let go of the illusion that I can possibly know everything there is to know, and give myself permission to discover. Give myself permission to be in my mess, in my imperfection, in my chaos, in my debilitation, in my fear, in my anything that's presenting to me. I give myself permission to be in it, immersed in it. Not resisting it, not locking it down, not becoming captive to it, allowing it to freely move. Not having a final destination in place, not trying to get to a thing that I want to get to fast, but instead allowing myself to discover from a space of, I don't know. I don't know, and I'm willing to find out. Not by reading papers and filling my brain up with someone else's information, but rather by being in the experience, surrendered to the experience. My body open and receptive, my breath in flow, relaxed. And when that wave moves, when that information moves, I come to know myself differently. In the code model coaching, well systems paradigm, which for me has come to equal the totality of what is paradigm, because it is absolutely brilliant in the way that it is not only put together and shows us the way, but in the way it is built on experience. So there's no expert, there's no hierarchy, there's no someone to tell you what your truth should be. There's only guidance to help you discover, to show you the way on how you can discover on your own. So it's very much a appeasing to the intellect because it tells you the science and all that sort of stuff, but it is experiential in that you get to have your own experience of what it means to be alive and congruent and centered and aligned. And that requires surrendering to the unknown. That requires expanding our mindset so that we come to know what we don't know. Not because an expert said it to us, but because we discovered it from inside out. It's like the download happens as we allow the information to move through our body. We let it percolate. So inhale, pause, and then we exhale the truth of our experience in the world. So like we know something differently about ourselves. And then at that point we can create something different. So that's engaging at the top of the exhale. It's a very different way to live than how we have been taught to live. It requires letting go of conditioning, surrendering the conditioning for discovery and truth. And in that process, discovering the truth is multifaceted. It is simple and yet immensely complex. It is constantly evolving. Because as one context expands, you find out something you didn't know about yourself, and then now all of a sudden your context opened up. But there's another context above that, and then another context above that, and then another, and another, and another, infinitely. So, you're never bored. It's so much fun. It is so intriguing. And honestly, there's a lot of resistance to letting go. There's a lot of resistance to surrendering control. There's a lot of initial resistance, I should say, to all of that stuff. Thereafter, it becomes a lot easier. It becomes more like a game. And when you recognize it as a game, when you see it as a game, there is nothing to be afraid of. There's only discovery. So this lights me up because it's like, oh, what a waste of fucking time. Like, what a waste of time. And therefore, our life, what people do in our culture. It's like, look around you. Control is not fucking working for us. Everything we try to control, poof, amplifies. I don't know. Like my friend Louise Lebrun says, not good, bad, right, or wrong, but how's that working for you? How is that working for us? So I look at the collective and I go, great, that's what's happening out there. I don't have to live like that. And what I'm looking for are the other people, specifically women, especially women, not necessarily physically, but women whose signal is feminine, who they know the feminine well in their bodies. Maybe even some men. I have yet to encounter one of those, though. Where are you, you brave, beautiful souls? Come say hi. I forgot what I was saying. So, I just know that living differently, living empowered, living connected, living rooted, living divine in our immanence is not only possible, but it is our birthright. And so long as we continue to be disconnected from that, and so long as we continue to pretend that we're not spiritual beings, but we're simply matter, but smart matter, different than everything else, because we're smart, we're fucked. We've clearly taken ourselves to the conveyor belt, and we're taking ourselves out. So whether that's by the climate no longer being able to host this kind of life, or whether that's by turning our spiritual matter, so like our quantum matter, our oh man, it's like the divine and the immanent that we are, taking that and separating it so that we live purely as matter directed by algorithms, chasing dopamine highs, living in the metaverse while our physical bodies rot away. I know nobody wants to talk about it, but if you're not living, and if you're not procreating, and if you're distracted and living somewhere else and thinking this is good for you, isn't that eugenics? It's not violent. It's not openly, blatantly talked about because the committee of they have learned the art of the subtle. But their end result is the same nonetheless. So it's like, if you haven't watched The Matrix, now's a good time to do it. Now's a really good time to do it, and pay attention to the metaphors in that movie. Because own nothing, be happy, may not be the best for us. But what do I know? I'm just one human God force expressing. So 19 out of 20 of my chats will touch on own nothing, be happy. This wonderful transhumanist revolution that we're in. So, anyway, I don't know. Basically, surrendering control, surrendering to our essence, surrendering control to our essence is what keeps us vibrantly alive, is what keeps us resourceful and resilient in the midst of all of this external chaos that is going to get progressively worse. Unfortunately, because we are living with a collective that is deeply committed to their own mortality, is deeply committed to staying asleep. I really don't love using those words, but really it's true. It's like awakening is a perpetual process, like I said, layers and layers and layers of contexts. And with people that want to keep their context exactly what it is so that they can continue to be right about the lives that they live, unfortunately, in my worldview, in my reality, to me, those people are asleep. And they've reached a state of comfortableness, and they just want to stay there because the discomfort of discovering something else feels too immense. So, I don't know. I just know that I want to live, and I want to live a magnificent life. And in order to do that, I have to be willing to feel. I have to be willing to feel every fucking thing that comes my way. I cannot afford to push something away. I cannot afford to lock it down and hope that it goes away. I cannot afford to never exhale. I cannot afford to live in my head. I cannot afford to try and come up with all the different possible scenarios so that I might control how I get to the thing that I think that I want. It's exhausting. It's exhausting to keep energy from moving because it's intended to move. And I don't want to live exhausted. I want to live free. I want to burn. I want to live fully alive. I want to experience everything there is to experience on this planet at this time in this iteration of my being here. In this magnificent body. With all its aches, with all its pains, with all its predispositions, with all its bizarre thoughts and movements and whatever, all of it, absolutely all of it. I welcome all of it. I cherish all of it. I am enlivened by all of it. Even in the moments of my deepest despair, even in my moments of my significant not knowings. So it's like I could be completely overtaken by fear. I can be completely overtaken by rage. I can be completely overtaken by any and all anxiety, depression, hopelessness, despair, whatever you want to label it. I don't really care. I could be overtaken by any of those. And I know it is part of the discovery process. It is part of the next revelation of myself to myself. There is nothing ever wrong. There is only information and flow. So, I don't know. It's an interesting time to be alive. It's a spectacular time to be alive. I am enthused and intrigued by the grasping of the control paradigm and the not letting go no matter what. It does not matter what the evidence to the contrary is. It doesn't matter. Like nothing seems to matter. The illusion of control has been so settled and people are so desperate to grasp control in any part of their lives that they're not noticing control is an illusion. So we can choose to do whatever we like with that information. We can choose to actually just let it go and then wait to discover what else might be out there. Because the matriarchal paradigm that has gone underground for the last thousands of years underground is not dead, ladies and gentlemen. It has been waiting. And when the feminine wrath waits, accumulates her fire, and channels her fire in such a way that it is powerful to transform anything on her path that does not serve her higher purpose, protection of all that is sacred, protection of all that is alive, divine and imminent. That is a force you cannot fuck with. And that is a force that is awakening in our planet. And while some people, many people, most people will unconsciously choose to capitulate their mind to technocrats and politicians and the medical system and fill in the blank and take themselves out, a lot of other people are attuned to the violations, and they have been for years. And they're teaching their children how to be attuned not only to the violations, but to the lies, the masterful lies that people have allowed to infiltrate every space in their bodies and minds. So some of us are teaching our children how to pay attention, how to not fall victims to that. And the only possible way that I've experienced in my 20 years of seeking, the only way that I've discovered is by being able to decipher my own internal truth. That is the only way I can know who's fucking with me, even though I don't know why, because I can feel the vibration of inauthenticity. I can feel the vibration of a lie. I can feel the vibration of coercion, of extortion, of whatever it happens to be. And I choose to honor that I do not go along with that narrative. I don't know why, but I know that it feels wrong inside of me, and that is enough. That alone is enough. I do not need anybody else to agree. I do not need anybody else to try and change my mind, because you cannot have my mind. Not your science, not your doctors, not your politicians, not your ideologies, not your systems, not your jobs, not your homes, not your anything. Because I know what it's like to be in tune with matriarchal consciousness, with the totality of what I am, instead of the broken, toxic, patriarchal mindset that has infiltrated every system, every ideology, every culture, every person, every family, every strategy even. To the point that we don't actually know what consent is. It's not fucking complicated, and yet here we are. So, this has gone on long enough for today. I thought I didn't have that much to say. However, this seems to be a topic of interest, if you will, for me. So, I'll end it there for now. And wish you all a beautiful, spectacular day of deep, rich inner revelations. Until next time.